We're living in societies which are hyper-perfectionist societies. And somehow a lot of people can argue, we're checking out of societies too, right? It's stressful to be here. Right? Being different and having a disorder are two different things. And that we are living in that world where we are celebrating the hyper-perfectionist model when the whole idea of humans are we are imperfect to start with.
Autism is not a disorder. You're just different.
If I tell people this smoking kills, I also think bullying also kills. Children are futures of the world. Our children are suffering.
They are.
They're in crisis.
They are in crisis. I'm Neal Tricarico, and my wife, Samara, and I are grateful you're here for this unique podcast experience. We share the story of the loss of our son, Anthony, the movement that has grown out of the unimaginable grief, and the legacy we're building so that no teen ever feels this alone or lost again. We're here to give parents the resources to support their children and the communities around them because it truly takes a tribe.
The Endurant Show is a testament to post-traumatic growth, the belief that even in the aftermath of deep grief, healing and purpose can emerge. It's a space for truth, connection, and hope, where real conversations around mental health, autism, suicide prevention, and resilience take center stage.
Healing doesn't always start with a diagnosis. It often starts with being heard, and we've created a community just for that.
Each episode, we sit down with teens, parents, experts, and advocates to share honest stories, tools, and resources. Because we believe that awareness is the cure, you don't have to hold your grief alone, and you don't have to run from it.
Through these conversations, we're building a community grounded in understanding, support, and lasting change. If you've ever felt alone, unheard, or unsure of how to keep going, this space is for you. Welcome to the Endurant Show, sacred storytelling through lived experience. I'm your host, Neal Tricarico, co-founder of the Endurant movement with my wife, Samara. Born from the deepest loss, the memory of our son, Ant, this show is a tribute to resilience, vulnerability, and the strength that rises through struggle. Here we embrace the full, unfiltered spectrum of the human experience. This is your space for post-traumatic growth, emotional grit, and connection that runs deep. This is the Endurant Show. Have you ever thought your teen was doing fine, only to find out later that they were silently struggling? A lot of teens, especially those who are high-achieving, socially skilled, or just really good at hiding their emotions, become experts at keeping their struggles beneath the surface. But what if the ability to seem fine is actually a form of masking? Something we often see in the neurodivergent teens, particularly those with high-functioning autism. That kind of masking can make autism harder to recognize, especially in teens who don't fit the stereotypical image. And yet, autism diagnoses are rising, particularly among older kids and adolescents who were previously overlooked or misdiagnosed, which raises some complex questions. Are we finally seeing what's always been there now that we better understand how autism presents? Or are we at risk of pathologizing traits that may just reflect a different way of experiencing the world? And is autism something to be treated or something to support more compassionately and inclusively? In today's episode, I'm talking about these big issues with award-winning psychiatrist Dr. Mayana Gupta, triple board certified in adult, child, and adolescent psychiatry and addiction medicine. Dr. Gupta is the medical director at Southwest Children's Behavioral Health in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Together, we are diving into an emotional toll of masking, why so many autistic teens are misdiagnosed or missed entirely, and what we can all do, whether you're a parent, educator, or clinician, to better recognize the signs of distress before a crisis hits. It's not just about awareness, it's creating spaces where our kids don't have to hide just to survive. Welcome, Dr. Gupta, and thank you so much for coming. Our struggle was real when we lost our son, Anthony, and through that introduction that was made through the USA Today article and getting to know you and understanding really what happened and the impact of high-functioning autism, on mental health has been profound. And we're so happy to have you here today. Thank you for coming.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
So I want to start by unpacking the assumption people have when they hear the word autism. How would you define autism?
Well, autism has been defined throughout the course of many decades in a different shapes and forms, right? We all know that autism nowadays has been seen in a very pejorative way, and I think people see that as a somebody who has a very profound mental health impairments related to social and communication issues. That's one definition, but we all know that humans exist in a very neurodiverse way, right? If you ask a very narrow question, how do I see it? I see as a pattern of neurodiversity. We are different in many shapes and forms, right? We have different color of skin, different hair type. We have different weights. Some people are short, some people are tall. Like that, in neurodiverse world, right? Humans also have social skills, which could be a very enhanced social skill, and some people can have deficit of social skills, right? So autism has been seen from different multiple lenses. From my vantage point, autism per se is part of a neurodiversity as a tribe, as we all coexist within throughout the human existence.
I really like this definition. And so help me or our viewers understand this idea of autism as a tribe, because it seems such a broad spectrum of understanding of what autism is.
As I said, I think we struggle understanding the term autism to per se, right? It's just changed over the period of, as I said, many decades since it was given a name. Initially, it was seen as somebody who has significant impairments and need a lot of I said assistance, and over the period of, I would say, last few decades has been seen through a very different lens. And when people use the word autism, it really have a visceral response. It has some level of stigma within, just because of the fact we all want to come across as similar and do not celebrate our diverse nature of being and existence. But over the period of, like, I would say, last 5 to 7 years, we have understood that the autism is a little bit more broader than what we were traditionally thought about. And they are individuals who will be not able to be easily detected, right? These individuals have pretty high cognitive abilities. That means they are highly intelligent, but they do have some deficiencies in social and communication problems, which are not easily detected and not easily could be seen. And I think one of the reasons I think we are talking today is able to identify some of these individuals, right, who are high functioning. They are all within us, and somehow subjectively they feel like they are not being identified and they're feeling the pain. And that's the reason that this is a very broad term which needs to be more understood in a more nuanced way.
Yes. And so what initially drew you into researching high functioning autism and suicide?
Right. As I said, I'm a clinician, right? So I think research is of many types. Research is experimental research. Some people will draw individuals, or look at a cohort of people, and they're going to compare the cohort with one cohort who's taking, for example, taking medications, or who's not taking medication. And these are experimental trials. The other kind of research is more observational research. So we observe what we see. So as I said, traditional understanding of autism was individuals who have social deficit, communication deficit, repetitive behaviors, who have, I would say, low intelligence, functioning, language deficits. But I think when I was seeing in my clinical practice, which was primarily based on an inpatient unit, individuals who were coming in states of crisis, and I looked at their patterns of behavior and look at their profiles. A lot of the risk factor which was seeing in traditional kids was not present. For example, I mean, these kids are pretty intellectually, at a very high level. A lot of these kids are National Honor Society, and they have like 4.0 GPA. They have unique abilities, unique skills, which a lot of the people don't have. Because when I was curious, I was asking questions that what do you like, and then when they told me they like history, it was not just knowing history; they know the exact details, which I think a lot of people won't know. And they were very advanced in their cognitive abilities, including lexicon, language abilities, were very profoundly sophisticated. Most of the people come from good families. They were celebrated and liked by communities. And what they were doing in order to hurt themselves was very profound and kind of scary. And that didn't match up. And the way I knew conventionally, the way I was trained, there was some certain outliers which really made me think. And I felt that I was the only one thinking about it, or is it somebody else is thinking about it as well? But I was very cognizant. I felt these individuals are definitely at a very high, profound risk, and I was not trying to classify into a low risk or medium stratification, which I think is not a right way to do. But I do spoke to them, and when I did engage them in that conversation, I felt that the risk plummeted because they wanted understood. Somehow they really wanted understood, and in that moment, I felt I have to start writing about it. And I think I started writing about it in journals. It started with some case reports, simple patterns, what I'm observing, and kind of traction I saw was unbelievable. Because some of the articles I wrote was seen in by 80, I mean, I would say like 80,000 times, and in a pretty, average journals. And I got calls from people who were reading the article that, listen, I think I was diagnosed with this, but after reading your article, I felt that, listen, it might be a form of high functioning Asperger or autism. And I felt that there's some substance to what I'm thinking. And that gave me a little bit more confidence that I'm not the outlier within. And that kind of scaled things up to where we are today.
Well, I'm so grateful that you've been keeping an eye on it, because for us, all the things that you mentioned were true. Anthony had a 4.6 grade point average, was well liked by his friends, was participating in sports and athletics. And by all accounts, for us, other than him seeming tired and overwhelmed and the things that he shared with us about depression, he seemed to be thriving. And so, I'm curious, why can it be harder for parents to, recognize in kids that appear to be thriving or, quote unquote, doing so well?
Yeah, because as I said, a lot of the individuals who are on a very high functioning form of autism, and I'm really very cognizant to ensure that autism and autism spectrum disorder are two different things. Autism is a neurodiversity, right? But individuals who have autism, especially high functioning, they have different type of struggles, right? And these struggles are pretty invisible, right? Invisible in a lot of shapes and forms. And somehow, as I said, we're living in societies which are hyper perfectionist societies. And somehow a lot of people can argue, like, we're checking out of societies too, right? It's stressful to be here, right?
Yeah.
And our children are part of this society. The village are stressed, right? Communities are stressed. What I mean to say, like, these individuals who are very difficult to be identified by unique or routine screening tools, when they are hiding in plain sight, somehow at a certain stage of their development, the development is not just getting physically larger, right? Because you're going to go for your well baby check, you're going to see kid is gaining height or weight. The other aspect of development also happens, which is a moral development, understanding what is right and wrong, right? Social development, like engaging and understanding how other people feel, right? This is what we call theory of mind. And individuals who are on autism spectrum, they struggle with that deficit, right? I mean, they struggle with what other people will feel about them. And their communications are also black and white, because they don't play the mind games. And what I understand is, somehow at certain age of development, right, which is around 9, 10, 11, 12, right, there is some kind of profound leap in individuals who are typically developing as compared to kids who are neurodivergent. And that time is subjectively, and subjective things are subjective for the name subjective because it feels internally, right? It can't be expressed. But then when these individuals start feeling ostracized, being bullied in a subtle way, they start struggling. And it's humiliating for them to talk about it. It's kind of hard. And what is a natural defense to that is camouflaging. The camouflaging is the way compensation happen. But camouflaging is exhaustive process, very exhaustive. Like you and me pretend to be what we are not, right?
Yes.
Imagine you're wearing a tight jeans, which is not fitting you, right? 24/7, round the clock, all the time. it's going to cause you back pain at some point because you're like not in your routine posture. And our society's culture, the way we are living in the social media world, is hyper perfectionist. So living in that world with certain level of divergence, which is not celebrated, and trying to fit in that social fabric, which is challenging. You and me might have grown in 80s. This was difficult but different than what is right now. And in my opinion, that interaction with that environment, when deficit interacts with that environment, which is not accommodating, that's where the phenomenologically, the epigenetic phenomena, the genes, environment, a lot of mental health issues start evolving.
This makes so much sense, and camouflaging, as you've shared it with us, and now I'm so grateful you're sharing with our audience, was new for us because our experience was often, Anthony seems tired, he seems exhausted, and we figured it was kind of like HALT, right? Hungry, angry, lonely, tired, and just being a teenager and just maybe staying up too late, doing all sorts of fun things. And understanding about camouflaging, I've really come to understand what you're saying is that in essence, from the moment they wake up, they're putting on a mask or an outfit to fit in throughout the rest of the day, so much so that's exhausting. Is that more or less what you're saying, or?
Yeah, it's said, because individuals who have, as I said, on the spectrum, right? I mean, they have the unique needs and interests, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when they're trying to, fit in with their other peers, right, who are neurotypical, and they might have different, like for adolescents, for example, right, going on a date or going on having a relationship, giggling, talking, having fun, could be considered to be a normal adolescent development, right? But the individual who are on the spectrum might have their own sensory issues and they might wear different kind of clothing because they don't like tight jeans. But when you're not part of the crew, when you're not part of the, that adolescent tribe, then you're not invited. When you're not invited, and I can tell you a subjective level, is humiliating. It's for a child and adolescents, that's their world.
Yeah.
That's their world. And they are not accepted in that world. Right? And there are many theoretical underpinnings of understanding why people die of suicide. I mean, that's $1 million question. I think it's such a rare event. It's very difficult to know. I mean, it's very difficult to predict. But we can make an understanding what could be going there. I mean, and I can say that in hindsight, because when I see individuals in crisis and I talk to them and I tell them, listen, I give them some, I think it seems like this might be going on. I rephrase, and I see a catharsis. I see a change in affect, which means that I see their face and the body changes because they feel like they don't have to fit in.
Mm.
They don't have to. So I guess, I mean, coming back to your question, yes, social camouflaging is an extremely, painful process. And we all do. We all camouflage. We all, even like neurotypical people, because we want to be in a party, we want to be certain way, right?
Yes.
When you're in front of a, social media campaign or, we want to come across a certain way. But then we relax and we are other, then we can be who you are. But for somebody who have to do it all the time, to be accepted, to be invited, to be part of this, celebration, to have fun, to have a buddy, to have some chumship, able to have a friend who can share what you feel. But that extreme loneliness, and not able to be accepted, draw them to a lot of, video games, because now video games are, we all know what happens video games. They are social event because it is no longer that what you and me used to play in the 80s. There's no Mario Brothers. It's played with everybody. So you're going to see kids are playing with people in Japan or Korea because they want some connection.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not good enough. It doesn't compensate to the needs. And that void is not filled.
Yeah. And so how would you help parents who might have a difficult time seeing this in their children? Because again, from the outside appearance, they're successful, they're doing well in school, good things could be happening. At most they seem sort of tired or exhausted. You're wanting to get them rest. But to understand that this may in fact be something far, far more risky and potentially lethal?
Yeah, I think there's probably not a single right answer, but I'll use the word monitor, 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 right? Don't leave anything unturned, right? There is a pattern. There is a pattern. You'll see it. If a child is struggling with any kind of mental health issues, like anxiety, depression, it is one few things you want to rule out. Think about it, rule it out. I mean, I think that the conventional understanding of using the autism word is definitely needs to change, and a lot of things needs to happen because people do not like the word, and because that really has stigmatizing, right?
Yes.
But I think we have to do more in order to make people understand that this is a spectrum,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
They are very influential, smart people in our evolution of human history who probably might have autism has really changed the way we live today.
Yes.
Because they are brilliant people. They can think through many things which you and me can't, right? The critical theories, the physics, the astronomy. I mean, they talk about anything. So I guess if you're seeing a child who's exceptionally brilliant but struggling in certain shapes and forms, spending like 8-10 hours on a video game, right? Not sleeping through the night, right? Experimenting with things and self-medicating, right? And it doesn't fit in. And like also they're trying to make friends but also struggling with that, and they're not communicating because as I said, it's a lot of context in what I'm talking about. It's very contextual. And my goal today is to give you the context, because what you see in a diagnostic criteria and the jargon which we use, it doesn't provide the context, right? And when I speak to the families, I try to explain to them, right? Yes, I mean, having friends is different than understanding what our chumpships are, right? It's not just a quantity; it's a quality.
Mm.
And I think so. When you see that your child is having 50 friends, right? But they can't keep up with them, right? They're having difficulties because individual might be a black and white thinker and they might like to do their own way, and they are not getting reciprocated in friendship.
Yes.
Then you need to think about, right? This is seem like, a deviation from the pattern what you see. I mean, I always tell, don't be an ostrich. If there is a problem, it's not going to go away.
Yes.
You deal with it, because the solutions are, in my opinion, is not like changing anything, accepting.
Yeah.
I think acceptance and awareness has I would say, a phenomenal effect in addressing one of the lethal outcomes of this problem. I'm not going to say the anxiety or worrisome goes away. I mean, but I guess you're really mitigating a very lethal outcome in a straightforward way by trying to understand the pattern, being aware, asking right questions, and basically talking to a clinician, and don't give up. I mean, keep asking the right questions that it doesn't look right.
Yes.
When things doesn't get better by the conventional way.
That's really helpful. And I really want to drill into this idea of the lethal nature and the awareness. But before we do, I feel like I want to drill in a little bit further on autism and the word itself. It is so complicated, and there's this vast spectrum, right? And even as we've started this endeavor, understanding how broad autism is, right? So on the one end, you might have children or folks who are nonverbal, which is vastly different than high functioning autism. And to be honest with you, quite frankly, since we've learned and explored and understood so much more, it seems almost confusing to put such breadth into one box. I know before autism was, or high functioning autism was Asperger's. And I'm curious what you would recommend, if anything, in terms of the solution appears to be awareness and not labeling it, but there also seems to be some confusion in putting varying degrees of diagnosis into one bucket. And so I'm curious your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and this has been a very contentious issue. But as I said, I think we are dealing with an entity which is invisible, right? I mean, sometimes mental health, mental disorder, mental illness conditions, they have a lot of semantics, and semantics leads to different responses in people. And mental health and diagnostic nosology, that's the word we use, classifications, has evolved and changed, right? We all talked about even intellectual disability, which is considered to be a more scientific terminology, but previous terminologies was scientific term, but they also become words of abuse, right?
Mhm.
I think you're right. I mean, when Asperger was included in the classification of a mental health disorder, right? It was uniquely different because it was noted that these individuals have very good linguistic abilities, they have high cognitive abilities, but they struggle in certain areas. Having said that, in the recent last, I would say, decade or so, before the recent updates happened, I think one of the understanding at that time was that since they have similar genetic, uh, I would say epidemiological, evidence, maybe it's better to cluster them together. But I think if you ask my own personal opinion, I mean,
Yes.
I think there might be a shift is needed. There's some more advocacy is needed from parents who understand that how it affects subjectively to patient family. Because I think the goal of any organizations who are working with classifications is to work with the patient and family.
Mhm.
I think the feedback needs to go and understand that, listen, is a diagnosis itself is a barrier,
Yes.
right? Because just people just refuse to accept it. And if it is a barrier, then is it the pragmatic to consider alternatives, right? Because we are not, it doesn't define anything. Anybody might have Asperger, it doesn't define them. It's just being different.
Yes.
Being different and having a disorder is a two different things, right? So I think there is a need, I believe there's need for some advocacy going forward in a most pragmatic and passionate way to consider that that something needs to be happen in order to give this a little bit of a distinct entities, different tones, so that the individuals who are neurodiverse are part of this process and that's acceptable to them.
Yes.
And I think that I would say they have been not included, and there should be some voice from the groups. But as I said, this is an evolving construct. I think we know more about it in last a decade, right?
Yes.
So I guess as we go forward, and we will definitely going to initiate from all aspects, from the people who are working in mental health field, from the patients, families, and all the advocates to consider it just needs some shift in how we understand, classify, and name, and a semantics which has to be accepted and inclusive of neurodivergent children.
Yes. I love where you're going with this and that you're out in front of it. One of the things that you shared with Samara and I early on was even the idea of removing the D, autism spectrum disorder, ASD disorder, could have a profound impact. And it's something that struck us deeply as we went back and found journals from our son and different things that he wrote down. And the number one thing that really caught us off guard was, when he talked about what's wrong with him is, I have a disorder, I have autism. And it really hit at my core, but also struck me as an awakening, as an opportunity to share with others and with other parents our experience. When we too are proliferating that name of disorder, then we're saying something is wrong with you. And so you're going to the autism center to have services so that we can overcome this disorder, so that we can learn to or teach you to be normal. And that obviously wasn't our interpretation of our experience, but what I've come to realize is how painful even naming it a disorder can be. And so what have you seen that impact on the kids that you're helping, or the removing of that word? How is that impacting them?
Yeah, no, I think it's a very, very, I think, important thing to understand. And a lot of my work, especially when I do, interact with these individuals and family, I think is all about explaining to them that you're different, not a disorder. But you use the word normal, and let me explain to you. I come from that tradition in which say that who's this normal person in this world? Tell me, I'll treat them. So
Totally.
normality is a is unachievable. I mean,
Yeah.
that's like, that is brittle, that keep you brittle, and that we are living in that world where we are celebrating the hyper perfectionist model when the whole idea of humans are we are imperfect to start with, right?
Yes.
So I think I personally do not think there's anything could be defined normal in the realms of human existence and human condition. We are diverse, and more you read about genetics, that'll open your eyes. I mean, genetics debunks everything, and I think where we come from, what has been coded, and it's what we are today is a product of of evolution for anthropological evolution for millions of years ago. But having said that, I think when you ask a question about these individuals who are struggling with these word disorder, so I think what is being an order? I mean, so that's also been debated, especially with kids who are different and neurodivergent, right? And a lot of critics of what we do, and I think some other individual, and sometimes is when you really need to know more about your specialty, you need to listen to other people because they have a different, a very, I would say, open and a good skeptical, and critical, view on what you do. And sometimes they use the word illness is better because illness really gives a subjective tone that how it hurts, right? Having said that, individuals who are different, their disorder implicitly develops when the society is very rigid. The problem, maybe the disorder it is in society, right?
Exactly.
Our
Yes.
societies are not, so we are keeping everything in order to be disordered.
Yes.
So I think that requires, but in the interim, when we make all these changes, I think that counseling really is very helps because when you talk to the child, and when I talk to them and say to them, listen, you are just different.
Yeah.
You have a red hair or a blue eyes or a brown eyes. How does it really matter?
Yes.
You have to just put your head high and live.
Yes.
That's what you need. I mean, then we need to tell our kids, who are neurodivergent, you're different. We're going to celebrate you. We're going to accept you. You can be here. You can be with us in this village. We're going to love you. We're going to care about you, and we're going to create this environment where you can thrive and be who you are. And that is, in my opinion, so therapeutic. And then they can just exist. I mean, that's, I think, life. Life is all about telling your child, looking in the eyes, listen, I love you. I care about you. I want you to live. That is it.
Yeah. It's so beautiful and so fascinating that it's really that simple. So for parents of a child who grew up with high functioning autism, we would take him to the center, 4 days a week, and it'd just be like, oh, well, you have this thing, you have to go here. It's like, well, why am I going here? Well, oh, because, you're different. You have autism, and they're teaching you some things so that you can fit in. And I remember like even being told, and again, without blame to any of the individuals or the services, it was like, oh, well, his mind thinks differently. He, acts differently. It's not as emotional. So we want to teach him how he can fit in essence, intellectualize like emotional connection and experience. And I just sort of blindly accepted it all as like, well, they must know because he's been diagnosed, he has this thing. And it just was like, okay, like keep taking him and seeing if he fits in more. And instead of looking back on it and helping him understand how beautiful uniqueness is, help him or them find their tribe, find their superheroes. And so in some ways, it almost sounds too easy. I mean, is it that easy? Is this what you're doing with these children, and how are they responding to that? Letting go of all of these other things and disorders and treatments that they need, and just getting grounded and real and connecting about what interests them.
Yeah, I think. I think I just want to make one comment first. Is that I think you are one of the most unique parent ever met and seen. I'm doing this for many years. I think what happened leads to a lot of anger and a pain, which is very difficult to heal. And what you're doing today is incredible. because you're just bringing back to society something to learn and from this loss, you're dealing with. So, and that's what connected you and me together, because I felt this is a great opportunity to look backwards, learn. Life needs to be understood backwards, live forward.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to completely understand what happened. But I think we can definitely, guide and advise and provide general, understandings of how this could be managed or dealt with. I'll be very reductionistic in my opinion to say that this could be solved,
Sure.
And I definitely do not want to come across that way. But in my opinion, you to understand that when individuals are struggling with a mental health condition, like they are suffering with anxiety and maybe they feel sad and they have a depression. So individuals who are on the spectrum, when they are struggling with a lot of camouflaging, with bullying, with trying to come across being normal, then they do get depressed. They do.
Yeah.
But the pathways are different. The context is different, right? I see individuals who are gone through a horrible neglect, coming from difficult family, difficult neighborhoods, right? A relationship breakdown. That's a different pathway, right? Now, if you don't understand the context, then you can make a mistake of going conventionally and becoming a very, cliche kind of treatment, right? In my opinion, when you are dealing with individuals who have high functioning Asperger, who are struggling with co-occurring disorder. So autism is not a disorder. Autism is being different, right? But individuals can have co-occurring condition, that is anxiety and depression. But if you're not cognizant and you're not updated, then you can make a mistake of using the conventional methods to treat it. And you might realize that this is not responding, right? So you have to modify the techniques, which is, again, is an evolution. I think last 5 to 6 years, I have been a small contributor, but the other people, which from my scientific community, is also been able to provide, much more nuanced understanding, like, the treatment, the psychotropics, therapies, psychoeducation, social skills training has been more nuanced and different as compared to just using the same, I would say, evidence-based model which you use for neurotypical kids, right? So it's definitely not easy, but if you're really aware and talk to a child with themselves, listen, I think you having a problem which is unique. It doesn't make sense to me that you are so smart, you're so good looking, you're so tall, you're so bright, you're a great musician, you know about history, you know so many languages, you can learn German, just go on YouTube, you can go back and and now you're having, this is what you're struggling with, you want to end your life. It doesn't make sense to me. Right? Let's talk about it. Can you give me some time to think about what's going on? And then if they agree, might be they're different, they're struggling with. In my opinion, that really gives them some time to think, be open about it, right? And if somebody is an expert telling them, it makes a difference.
Yes.
It makes a huge difference. Because they always, a lot of times when I talk to these kiddos, children, teenagers, they say, listen, I always Googled myself, but I was not sure. I said, yes, but I can tell you are different. That's it.
Yeah.
And I would not think about that's a reason for you to just, check out from this world. I mean, this is a reason to be here. You are valuable. You're going to contribute. You are, we love you. We care about you. And, and you have to be really clear. And I think when you see what you know in this world, if you don't know it, that's why you don't see it. That's the reason I've been trying to contribute from my end to teach, educate, write about it, to tell people in public, people who work in mental health, like, listen, be cognizant. You're going to come across, these individuals trying to get some help, and they can hide in plain sight very easily. They can hide in plain sight because they are going to present like anybody else. So those are the nuances, those are the contextual issues which I'm trying to, bring to light for everybody.
And we're so grateful that you are. And something, so much of what you say strikes me, right in the heart. But what you said is, autism is not a disorder. You're just different. And even from that place, it changes everything. How we could interact with our children, understanding, helping them embrace their differences. It's so fascinating. In other areas of parenthood, you're kind of looking for those differences, those uniquenesses. What is my child's special gift? What is their superpower, right? And what if we looked at this difference instead as helping these children find their superpower and leaning into that superpower, as opposed to reinforcing this idea of them having a disorder? I think it would change the game for them. Are you seeing that with them?
Yeah, no, absolutely. As I said, generally individuals who are on the spectrum, in the psychiatric referred population, the folks who seek treatment, as compared to general population, they are much more higher seeker for treatment. Because they struggle, and a lot of things are refractory to conventional treatments. Because first time they generally go to see the pediatrician and family doctors, right? And then most of the time it's kind of difficult, if you really don't know, and because this is an evolving construct, right? So I think they end up, getting worse with time because they don't understand why. Why? Why I am the way I am. Did everything, I did everything. I'm honest. I do everything, in order to be a good person. I like to go for these parties, but, I always get this subtle, sublime bullying, which is also a very pernicious thing. We have tried for years to, curb bullying, but somehow the effects on the grounds are very minimal. And if I tell people does smoking kills, I also think bullying also kills. I can stick my neck out and say that.
It does.
We have not done enough. We've not done enough to. We have the laws, but it's not enforced enough.
Yeah.
To protect. We have not done enough for a kid who is struggling with sensitivity of noises to create safe spaces.
Yeah.
For them to be and take some 5 minutes break when they're having a sensory overload. So I guess there has to be a shift, because we all know that these individuals are not a minority in this group who are asking help. They are a significant proportion. Yeah. And I can go into technical jargons of giving the epidemiological data about the prevalence, but it's not going to I think one life is too many.
One life is too many.
And I guess, this is the whole idea here, is to be more aware. I mean, I don't think problems go away. I mean, humans' existence is known for problems. But we are trying to say, is the problem is so profound or substantial enough that that is the only answer? I think the answer is no.
Yes.
Answer is no. I think this is a modifiable condition, and modification is not just going to have from one people. Our village
Yes.
needs to modify. That means our whole system needs to modify. Communities need to modify. I think we need to be a little bit more cognizant that diversity in neurological terms, the diversity and neurotypical kids are part of of coexistence, that we can happily coexist, and there's a space for these children to thrive too.
It's so beautiful. And so as we kind of make the turn here and bring it home, moving forward, one of the things that you shared that really struck with us is that the cure, if you will, the treatment for this is awareness. And, even what you were sharing, these highly bright teenagers will seek help. It was fascinating early on with our son. We didn't know about his suicidal ideation, so it wasn't so much that he was seeking help. And then towards the end, he was seeking help. He was looking for help. He was asking us for help. why am I different? All of the things that you said, despite thriving and achieving and getting great grades and being AP and winning, placing in marathons and things for that. He was always seeking something else. And it was this idea of achievement. Like if I just achieved more, I would fit in more. And I feel like he aced the science of achievement, but this art of fulfillment, it left him lacking. And every step of our journey, it seemed like, whether it was, first responders, 988, or mental health facilities themselves, it was always one size fits all. That there was no separate protocol for this neurodivergence or this difference. And I don't know where I'm going with all this, but understanding all of what you've shared, and that the focus seems to be on, we're going to find a cure by September. This is, an environmental thing, all these things. It seems that it really may be as simple as just all of us having awareness, parents having awareness for their high functioning autism children, their friends, schools, first responders, healthcare. I know I'm throwing a lot at you, but I mean, if we were to play this idea forward as the cure or solution is awareness, how do we proliferate that? I know we're starting here, but how would you say we proliferate that even more?
Yeah, I think the multiple levels, you can work on. I mean, there's no one level. I mean, generally interventions you're talking about could happen at many levels, I think one of the interventions, in my opinion, is also good screening and early. Because what happens is when you screen them late, then there's always a mystery in a puzzle, and there's always self-exploration with these children, because now we all have access to internet and artificial intelligence, right? And that doesn't really give the context, right? That just give you information, right? So people are trying to search their symptoms and looking at symptom, but really doesn't tell them who they are, right? I think our force, starting from what you said, from even 988 responders to school teachers, to the people working in a community. And there has to be a little bit more authentic and evidence-based information coming from reliable sources. And it is like, I don't think it's rocket science, to understand that, we can have these neurodivergent children who can hide in plain sight, be more cognizant, be aware, right? We have learned this over the period of many years and decades, right? That human capacities and potential with good advocacy, good knowledge, good mass public health, campaigns, and this is one of them, right?
Yes.
To be more informed and be more flexible. I mean, keep that option open. I always tell people, I mean, listen, do not just walk in one narrow category, right? Because the field, especially for mental health field, is not as black and white like a dentistry or orthopedics. So you're not going to see things as visible and things evolve with time too, right? Things are going to evolve because as the child is developing and interacting in environment, right, the more things going to happen. So interventions needs to be at multiple levels. It's not one level. One person can't do the job. I mean, you're doing your bit, right? The research community have to do their mother bit, right? The community and the society, the school systems, right? The gyms, right? Talking about, the other environments you think about, they all have to accommodate and see, like, are we really not understanding what the needs of these children might be? And in that concentrated effort on multiple levels could make us very profound change in the way we are dealing. Again, as I said, it's not going to just completely take away anxieties and I mean that happens. That's what we are as humans. We all, but I think the consequence is so profound and lethal, and I'm talking about that aspect could be addressed if we are really more cognizant of this entity.
So is there anything that I haven't thought of or that would be really meaningful to cover here?
I think you've done a phenomenal job as a family, as both you and Samara to really bring this very important issue to the limelight for the general people. And as I've mentioned to you before in our previous conversations, that I was trying to write about it and trying to draw some traction and to make people aware that these individuals are presenting, in our clinics and hospitals asking for help. And I believe that what I do want to convey from your this medium is that there lot more needs to be done. And the answers are not reductionistic. It's not binaries. It's more complicated, right? But asking the questions, keep asking the questions from folks who understand, who can respond to you, and not trying to give you a blanket answer. There's no blanket answer for it. I think that the scientific community will respond to it. I think people do respond to families, movements, right? And there has to be more voices, right? I believe that majority of the folks who work in mental health, want to hear from patients, their families. There has to be more organized effort, work in close collaboration, trust the science. It's not perfect. It evolves. We know more. It's hard to know and understand these things because we are so different, right? So it's very difficult to just have a very black and white umbrella interventions for everybody. But by and large, if you really focus on this, we can definitely bring it to everybody's attentions and make more stride in the right directions. So I want to leave with some hope, but also some duty and responsibility for everybody to do their part.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a duty.
Yeah.
It's a duty to do your part, because what I saw, I felt I was scared.
Yeah.
What I was seeing, because I thought that it was not known. It was something I felt was not being researched enough, right?
Yes.
Because we're talking about death by suicide.
Yes.
Losing a child, a bright child who has a great future.
Yeah.
Children are futures of the world. Our children are suffering.
They are.
They're in crisis.
They are in crisis.
They're asking for help.
They are.
And there are some things which we can tackle, something we can provide them answers for. Yeah. And this is one of them. Yeah. That's what I'm going to leave you with.
Well, it's so beautiful. And if I could really connect with what you've left us with, this idea of hope and duty, and there's so much hope, because unlike maybe cancer or something where we're like finding a cure, a fix, there's this thing that's wrong and we haven't found the fix. What you've really identified is that this isn't a disease. It's not even a disorder. There's not a fix. The solve is human connection, helping these teens understand, instead that of we're trying to fix it or get rid of it. It's not something that was supposed to exist, but understand their differences and their uniqueness. And I think there's so much possibility in that, because as you shared, with all the research that you've done, if you're just sharing it with other researchers and doctors, like, it's kind of where this most important science goes to die, forgive me, because it doesn't get out to parents like us to help us understand we could interact far more effectively. What also gives me hope are the teens. Teens, much like we have in our Endurant movement, who are leading aspects of the show just like this. They don't want to see their friends die anymore. They don't want to understand for a second that something is wrong with them. They want to include them. They're leading and championing everything related to diversity and inclusion. So indeed, there's so much hope between, wow, this isn't as extraordinary as it might seem. It's about talking and in creating awareness, and the children are bringing us hope. And then the duty, thinking of somebody like myself who's aware of this now, is that and I'm not being hard on myself here, but like with that diagnosis, I feel like almost like I abdicated my parenthood. Like it was something so out there that had a name, and there were doctors, and there was, the special thing you need from the school, the IEP, and so it's like, oh, well, okay, I just sort of defer to the experts, and our duty as parents and human beings is to take all that in as information, but to understand like these are humans, to be more present with them, to ask more questions, to help them understand what a gift this is. I mean, Michael Jordan found the basketball, Elon Musk, high functioning autism, super bright. I mean, it's like, I look back at it not with regret, but with hope for a better future, so that children like our own will not only survive, but they will thrive. And a duty that says it's time to take it upon ourselves to understand that these certain things are just uniquenesses. We remember going into the school and, like just advocating for our son getting extra time on tests and all these things that his IEP afforded him, when he was in there saying like, I don't want that. I don't need that. I don't, and listening more to them and helping them understand their uniqueness. And like we would help a child find what sports or what interests they're into, and then find them like a champion of that, right? So somebody who's doing it well in that space or field, a superhero, if you will. And I think this conversation leaves the truth that there's so much yet to be done, but also, like you've shared, the hope that it is fixable in so much as every way we help every other human being is to love them, listen to them, be present with them, and understand their needs and help them understand how they might flourish within their own unique gifts and talents. So I feel like we're just starting something special here. Grateful to have you join the show. And I know our plan from here is to do much, much more work together, both out in the environment, helping parents and teens and every step of a young person's path, navigating this, be understood far better, but also continuing our conversations in a more frequent mechanism where we'll be answering questions from parents and from teens and helping. I think you're a big part of what Endurant is, because it is all about community. It is all about connection. It's all about what you said. The cure is awareness.
Yeah. No, thank you. I think thanks for, including me in your this journey. And I think this is a journey, as I said. There's no destination, and things will evolve as we go. And humans are evolving creatures. We are diverse. What we are today, 200 years ago, we are different. So, and we continue to evolve as we go. And I think you underscored a very important point, which I really feel is critical, that we have to let the child unfold and not mold. And we are molding, when we mold our children into certain way and shapes and form, because that's considered to be the normality, which I think, as I said, is a mirage, and then we are making our system brittle, right? Because even today, the death by suicide in adolescents is the second leading cause of all the morbidity and mortality, beside a road traffic accident or MBA. So I think a lot could be done. I think what I really feel this movement is all about, not anger, not you're reconciling with something in the most humane and a constructive way. And this is not about blaming. It's not about revenge. It is not about, and that really shows how this movement is so profound. And I felt it's a privilege to be here, and we are doing our part in spreading whatever we know, And they are, as I said, there are a lot of things I'm going to get blindsided with all the time, right? And we all going to get blindsided with things. But that's what we need to talk about as a collective, as a society, given the cost is high. Because the cost is so high when you lose somebody who are bright, who are intelligent. Because when I interact with these individuals in my practice, I get completely amazed when you go into the details. Because if they know a philosophy, then they're going to know about German idealism, and they can talk about detail about Nietzsche, which I don't know at 12, 13 years of age. Yeah. And they know about Immanuel Kant. And I said, where do you read it? They are very detail oriented. They know their stuff, because that's how their brain is wired, right? They have narrow interest, but not just interest. They are really into it. And that's how we have shaped a society, right? We are like, when you talked about different names, historically, we can't go back in time and again give them a diagnosis. But that's the diversity that brings us to where we are, that we can just, fly from one place to another in like coming from East Coast to West Coast in 5 hours.
Yeah.
Right? And we can just do things simpler in quicker time in order to celebrate being what we are.
Yeah.
Because we're trying to find something which is we're never going to find, because there's nothing out there. What is there is here and now. And that note, I just want to thank you for inviting me today.
You're so welcome. And I'd love to leave us all with this idea of let's let it unfold, not mold. I just have this visual of you working with these children and them sharing something that's really fascinating and of interest to them, and going deeper on that and seeing them just energize and thrive, as opposed to coming in and working on whatever tasks the protocol says needs to be done to get to the next milestone, to get closer to normal behavior, if you will. This has been a tremendously powerful conversation, and so grateful to get started with you. Thank you, Dr. Gupta.
Thank you, Neal. Thank you, Samara.
Thank you for watching or listening to this episode of The Endurant Show. If today's story stirred something in you, know that you're not alone. Healing doesn't always follow time. It follows truth and grows stronger in community. If this conversation spoke to you, please share it with someone who needs it. This is the work, the conversation that keeps healing alive. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube at Endurant Movement and follow us wherever you get your podcasts. We'd also appreciate it if you leave us a rating and review. It truly helps us reach more people. To learn more, get involved, or support our mission, visit endurantmovement.org and follow us on Instagram at Endurant Movement. It's listeners like you who keep these important conversations going. So until next time, keep listening, keep sharing, and most of all, keep growing, because your story is sacred, and we're so glad you're here to tell it. Wherever you are on your path, we're here for you. Until next time, keep listening, keep sharing, and most of all, keep growing, because your story is sacred, and we're so glad you're here to tell it. Wherever you are on your path, we're here for you.
Thank you for listening to The Endurant Show. If this conversation moved you, please follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. To view the conversations, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. And to be a part of the community, follow us at Endurant Movement. And lastly, if you feel called to support the movement and help us ensure no teen ever feels alone again, visit endurantmovement.org to learn more, and if you can, make a donation. Together we can create lasting change, one conversation, one connection at a time.